What if a surprise attack on the holiest day of the year led to a war that brought the world's superpowers to the brink and changed the Middle East forever? This is the story of the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Let's rewind to 1967. After the Six-Day War, Israel controlled the Sinai Peninsula, the Golan Heights, and other key territories. For years, Egypt and Syria, feeling the sting of that defeat, dreamed of reclaiming their land and restoring their national pride. They planned, they trained, and they waited for the perfect moment to strike. That moment came on October 6, 1973, as Israelis observed Yom Kippur, the most sacred day in Judaism, and Muslims observed Ramadan. A surprise two-front assault was launched. Egyptian forces stormed across the Suez Canal, breaking through the supposedly impenetrable Bar-Lev line. Simultaneously, Syrian tanks rolled into the Golan Heights. Israel was caught completely off guard, and the initial days of the war were a disaster for them. The myth of Israeli invincibility was shattered, but the tide began to turn. After absorbing the initial shock, Israel mobilized its reserves and launched fierce counterattacks. In the south, General Ariel Sharon led a daring operation, crossing the Suez Canal and encircling the entire Egyptian Third Army. This bold move completely changed the dynamic in the Sinai. Up north, in the Golan Heights, Israeli defenders fought desperately against overwhelming odds. In some of the largest tank battles since World War II, they managed to halt the Syrian advance and then push them back, even advancing to within striking distance of the Syrian capital, Damascus. This war wasn't just a regional conflict. It had huge global implications. The United States, seeing its ally Israel in trouble, launched a massive airlift of military supplies called Operation Nickel Grass. In response, the Soviet Union armed Egypt and Syria. For a few tense days, the two Cold War superpowers stood eyeball to eyeball, raising the terrifying possibility of a direct confrontation. Away from the battlefield, another weapon was deployed: oil. In a move that sent shockwaves through the global economy, Arab oil-producing nations, led by Saudi Arabia, imposed an oil embargo on countries supporting Israel. Gas prices skyrocketed, long lines formed at gas stations, and the world was plunged into an energy crisis. This was the first time the world truly understood the power of oil as a political weapon. After 3 weeks of brutal fighting, AU unbrokered ceasefire finally took hold on October 25th. The war was over, but its impact was just beginning. Though a military stalemate, the war was a psychological victory for the Arab world. It proved that Israel was not unbeatable and restored a sense of pride. For Israel, the war was a traumatic event that led to deep national soul-searching and a complete overhaul of its intelligence and military doctrines. The most significant outcome, however, was the shift towards peace. The war convinced Egyptian President Anwar Sadat that he could undefeat Israel militarily and that diplomacy was the only way forward. This realization paved the way for his historic visit to Jerusalem and, ultimately, the Camp David Accords of 1978. This landmark treaty saw Egypt become the first Arab nation to officially recognize Israel, in exchange for the return of the Sinai Peninsula. The Yom Kippur War, born from a desire to reclaim lost land, ironically became the catalyst for the first real peace between Israel and an Arab neighbor. It was a conflict that reshaped military strategy, triggered a global energy crisis, and redrew the political map of the Middle East, leaving a legacy that we still feel today. Thanks for watching. If you found this piece of history interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. See you next time.